Francis. I've been working with children for 36 years. I'm licensed as a clinical psychologist and have been also licensed as a marriage and family and child therapist. Children are very variable, and even today with all of our research, children are more individualistic than they are all the same. At least that's the way parents should be looking at the children. Your one child is going to be different than your other. Your type of relating to one child is going to be different than the way you relate to another child. And if you've got them in your mind that they need to be all the same and they're not the same and therefore there's something wrong, you're probably not responding to the uniqueness of their personality. You know, even if your child is suffering from attention deficit disorder, there are all sorts of different ways that child could be responding. Do you know that some children that have attention deficit disorder are just, they're so smart, they can't keep themselves into that boring zone of the sameness of school. Some other people who have attention deficit disorder, their brain just wants to go to sleep all the time unless their body is physically active. Other individuals with attention deficit disorder have an oxygen level that's just too low for them to really be able to pay attention. The blood's just not getting to the brain in a way that helps them be able to focus and take good stock of what's going on. Other individuals are very sensitive to their external environment, and therefore they're very distracted by all the different information going on around them, and they need peace and quiet and something that's very settled into kind of isolating for them to be able to focus. And other children with attention deficit disorder, if there's not kind of like a normal hum of activity and movement around, they can't focus. Some children with attention deficit disorder, when they are gaming, they are so focused because there's that constant reconfiguration of the stimuli and a lot of positive response coming back when they win a fragment of the game or do something that fits into the moment that works. So do you see that even in talking about children with attention deficit disorder, they come in all different shapes and forms? Dr. Allman, A-M-E-N, has investigated 6 categories that he holds true to, and being able to photograph the brain and the brain activities under a SPECT scan, and being able to see that maybe different types of medication help the brain function differently for different configurations of attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactive disorder. But even under those circumstances, not all children are the same. So as parents, I would encourage you to be creative with your child. Your school district is not going to be able to be all that creative. And your teachers even less so. They have too many children. They need to respond as if the group is like one homogeneous group. And a child with attention deficit disorder just does not fit into a homogeneous group. So you as a parent, you may need to be very creative in raising and educating and preparing your child for his or her future. That means you as a creative individual can no longer be judgmental about what your child is and telling them how awful they are, that they're not someone else, but instead being creative about who they are and then trying to figure out how they can find the world where they can excel. I mean, face it, once upon a time, our children would go out there and milk animals and cut down the crops and take care of tractors, and that was before breakfast. See, our children are no longer living in a world of physical activity. So what about those individuals that are programmed for physical activity? I mean, all day physical activity. So when you look at your child with compassion, not judgmentalness. Look at your child for who they are as an individual, not how they don't fit in with the group. And try to find ways for you to be able to get your environment, you, and the things that teach your child in a way that is congruent with your child's way of learning. And the way your child can feel good about themselves, because they can be themselves and simultaneously productive, effective, growing and learning in congruence with who they really are. Not because they don't match some homogeneous group called school. Let's face it, on another level, many of our elementary school teachers are women. And many of the people that are diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, ADD, they're guys. And maybe that discrepancy alone is what's getting them diagnosed. Because women like to talk, they like to think, and they like to draw, and they like to sit still a lot more than guys do. And so if that teacher is needing the class to be congruently calm and only use their words and not use their actions, then how's that teacher going to be really happy that this child's capable of being physically active and aggressive? So see, your child may be set up for failure not because they're a failure, but because the situation's just too far off the mark of who they were meant to be. Be very kind to your children and don't exercise judgment. Exercise creative, wise interventions. And yes, you're going to have to be wiser than your teachers and your principals, and you can't entirely fault them. They're not paid enough to be able to give everybody exactly the individualistic attention. And after all, that is the role you need to play in their life as parents. Don't mean to put the burden on you, but because you decided to be parents, you get the responsibility. And your child will thank you forever that you paid attention to who they were, not who everybody told them they should fit into. This is Dr. Carol Francis. I've been a child therapist for over 36 years. As a clinical psychologist and marriage, family, child therapist licensed to work with parents and children. And you as a parent, you're going to learn on the way. Just know that you can steer it with compassion, wisdom, savvy, and creative interventions. Take care. Call me if you wish, but take really good care of your family.